Let's
Who they
go.
up in this
Let's
bitch?
go. This is the episode right here that we're going to talk. We're going to get into them right now. The Cincinnati Bengals and the schedules of them and the rest of the AFC North. The way we're going to break this down here, ladies and gentlemen, is we have our standings. And we have predicted these teams' record throughout the season. We're going to go team by team, dive into these schedules, tell you what their records are going to be, and hopefully you guys don't hate us. Starting off with the Cincinnati Bengals, their schedule looks like this, featuring 3 primetime games: a Monday Night Football game against Cleveland, a Sunday Night Football game against Pittsburgh, and a big-time Monday Night Football game in Week 17 against the Buffalo Bills. We talked on the show, I believe it was Friday, one of Aaron's favorite matchups that he's looking forward to is that Week 2 game against the Dallas Cowboys, because that's like,
Don't say.
I think that, but aside from him being a Cowboys fan, I think that is the true test, the first true test for this Bengals team. And Dylan, in your notes for your storylines, you put the words rinse and repeat. What does that mean, especially when we look at their schedule and moving forward for the Bengals?
You just got to win games. I mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, obviously, every single year you go into an NFL season, you want to win as many football games as possible and get to where you were. This team had 0 expectations last year going into this season. Second lowest Super Bowl odds going into last year. They danced their way to the Super Bowl. I mean, they were literally right there in the Super Bowl. And, I mean, they played great football down the stretch. They beat Kansas City in 2 close games. Great. I mean, that was huge for them. And I think that's one thing you got to look at for this team. Storylines for this year, you just got to find what you can to just forget about last year, realize you did have that success. Last year's gone. You got to wash that away and rinse it, all right? But you do got to repeat that success. That's one thing you got to have. You got to start winning those games. What you did last year, you can't dwell on, oh, we were there last year. Well, I think it's all right if we do things a little bit differently this year. No, what you got to do, it's a brand new football season. Still feel that success you had last year, but it's a brand new year, and you got to bring it because, I mean, a lot of people are doubting them this year too. A lot of people want to doubt the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm one of them, but I'm just telling you, I think that this is one of those times where you just got to forget about the greatness that happened last year. It was great to get that far. Their expectations were low. You ended up getting that far. But this year, I think, is a different game, and you got to find a way to just win football games the way you want to.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest storylines for the Cincinnati Bengals is, do they hang their hat on their offense, or are they going to try to hang their hat on their defense? Last year, their defense got them out of a lot of tough places. Very opportunistic turnovers, really bearing down at the goal line a lot of times and making the requisite plays to get W's out. And the secondary was one of the things that we talked about their team needing help with, and they got that. I really like their signing or their pickup of Jacksonville. I think he's going to be a good guy to help out with the Chidobe Awuzes and Eli Apples of the world. They listed him as a cornerback one again. Anyways, but then their offense last year, as prolific as it was, they did that without a solid offensive line. The pickups they got this year with Alex Kappa and Ted Karras, Lyle Collins, that line is substantially better in my opinion. And in theory, should allow Joe Mixon to have more room to run, should allow Joe Burrow more time to scramble out the pocket and make some of the stud plays we've seen him do ever since his days at LSU and in the NFL. So this is a team, despite the regression that people are expecting, despite how difficult it is to get back to a Super Bowl, this is a team that I expect to make a deep run in the playoffs because on paper, I know the game should still be played. I get that. But right now, on paper, this far out, this is a team that has the requisite pieces to get right back to at least the AFC Championship. And starting today, I think that's where they have to go with it.
Yeah, you look at their schedule. I mean, this is a tough schedule. Like, I mean, obviously, we talk about it all the time how the losing team in the Super Bowl has a very hard time history says that the losing team in the Super Bowl has a very hard time returning to the Super Bowl the following year. This schedule right here it's tough. I mean, you have Kansas City, Cleveland's supposed to be good, Tampa, Buffalo, Baltimore is going to come back strong. I mean, this is a tough schedule for the Cincinnati Bengals. And when you look at our standings here, Dylan, you have them at 8-9. That is
disrespectful.
That's tough. So looking at the schedule, where does 8-9 come from? What makes you say they're going to have? Where's their 9 losses?
Okay, let me look at the schedule here, but I do want to say, I mean, everybody in this division has a tough schedule because they got to play the doghouses in those divisions I mentioned earlier. I mean, you got to play Pittsburgh, who Mike Tomlin, let's be honest, he still hasn't had a record under 500. I know it looks a little bit differently this year, but I mean, there's that. You have the Ravens coming back healthy, the Browns, who knows with Watson, but there's another spot there. But looking at this record, I mean, I think they split Pittsburgh, so go ahead and give one. Dallas is going to be a tough game in week 2. There's 2 losses. They could beat the Jets. I think they could beat Miami. I think they get swept by Baltimore. I know they kicked Baltimore's ass twice, so I know that going in. But I think it's good. All right, you know what? Actually, they'll split that. We'll go 3 losses there at Baltimore. New Orleans, they'll win.
I just said which of their losses. I don't need wins. Just give me their losses.
Yeah. The Browns is 4. Browns is 4. Tennessee's 5. Kansas City is 6. Tampa Bay, 7. New England, or rather Buffalo, is 8. And then one other division game, whether it's Cleveland, whether it's Pittsburgh, or whether it's Baltimore. I think that's 9.
Okay. So when I was thinking, yeah, Bengals fans don't like it. This is what we talked about, how we have been in a constant battle with Bengals fans. And I think your thing is what AJ said. When you look at that record, I think that is disrespectful. I think this team did get better. I think this team is still a playoff team. But I think when we're talking about the Cincinnati Bengals, we're not hating on them or saying that they're a bad team. Also, you said they'd get beat by the Tennessee Titans. That's no bueno because the Tennessee Titans are going to be but I think this team, they got better. Like,
Sunday.
Why do you think, I mean, obviously that record is much, much worse than what it was last year. Are you saying that it's more so on the teams that they're playing are better, or are you seeing problems with the Bengals that make you think that they're going to be 8-9?
See, every single week last year, I'll be honest, I doubted Joey Burrow till I saw him start winning playoff games. I was like, this guy's a freaking beast. He wins games. And that's the one thing that's just eating at me right now. It's the fire. No, it's the fire in me right now. Like, I'm speaking and I'm saying these things about the Bengals and the way I feel. And when I look at the outlook of this team, it's the damn freaking Joey Burrow's a winner, right? That's what's eating at me right now. The guy wins football games. He's a great quarterback. I think that schedule's very tough. They went all the way last year. It's hard for teams to do it. And I don't want to throw this narrative out there because they're a completely different team than the last 2 that I'm talking about here. The Jacksonville Jaguars had a lot of success in 2017. Everybody was hyping them up, top 5 in power rankings to start the season. They beat New England week 2. They're 1-1. They're looking pretty solid. Everyone's riding them. They fall apart. The Chicago Bears, 2018, worked their way 12-4 that year. Matt Nagy, Mitchell Trubisky's playing good football. They get down to where they are. They end up losing the double doink game. Following year, they shit their pants. Every year we see something like this. Every year we do. And I'm not basing this off of anything else. I'm not a hater. I'm not a hater when it comes to the Bengals. I see a tough schedule. I see a team that had success last year that is not accustomed to success. And I think that's going to bite them in the tail this year. And I'll go back on this episode, and I'll either own up to it right here on the show, saying that guy that's speaking right now, this guy's an idiot, or I'll be right where I believe I think I
right here at Dylan Kearns. But no, I think that when you look at their schedule, and AJ, I'm gonna let you go on this real quick. But like when you look at their schedule, I think you and I both have one more loss. So Aaron and I are both highest on the Bengals here than both of you, and I think we've been the most negative to him. Well, Aaron is definitely on another level of negative toward him, but I think that I think the Bengals beat 1 or 2 of those big time matchups against a Buffalo or a Kansas City. Like they win one of those games, but I don't think they get that far out of that. I think they do split just about every game with every other divisional opponent. The biggest X factor here is, I think we're going to talk about the Browns in a second, but one of the biggest X factors is when Deshaun Watson plays and how he plays. Because if he's suspended the 8 weeks, then you can chalk that Browns game as a win for the Bengals. But if he's back in that week 8 and they're battling for a playoff spot in week 14, you could easily see the Browns sweeping Cincinnati.
Yeah. That's so my one less loss for you guys is basically a toss up. Like, would I be surprised if they went 11-6? Of course not. I think I think they split Pittsburgh too. Pittsburgh is a team that's going to have to get it together later in the season, just like they did last year. Baltimore is the question mark, and what I mean by that is because we know how good they are, but do they face adversity again? Does the chemistry come back right? We know how much better Baltimore got this season, so Baltimore could be sweeping, but I don't want to be talking about the Bengals, a team we just saw do the improbable last year. Like, oh, that was really a flash in the pan. It was really a drop in the bucket. They are who they've been for the last 5 or 7 years, because that's just not true. This is a much better team and is a different makeup. Yeah. These guys know how to win games. They have an explosive offense of youngsters. So these guys who got prime legs, fresh legs, and are out to prove things. T. Higgins went from the number 1 guy to possibly the number 2 guy. And of course, he loves Jamar Chase. Don't mean he ain't trying to show that he can be just as good as a Jamar Chase if he gets the opportunity. And that's a scary thing for any of these defenses to play. The Ravens defense, really good. The secondary of the Browns can be really good, but a lot of these guys have been injured since the moment they've been drafted to the Browns. But if those 2 secondaries are there, we're going to have some problems. You're going to see a bunch of, pun intended, dogfights. The only secondary that you really feel a little comfortable in is the Pittsburgh Steelers secondary. And even to that, you have a front 7 to reckon with. So it's not that this is an easy division, but it's that all of these guys, the makeup of the AFC North has always been putting on some fights. And I think that's what you're going to see again this year. And we watched, last thing I'll say, and you can use the Chargers game because that's the easiest one to think about. We've watched these teams last season play up and down. We watched some games where they came out prolific and you're ready to give them the next 3 games on the schedule, and then they go ahead and drops the ball. It's an 18-week season. There's a lot of shit that's going to go wrong. There's a lot of shit that's going to go right. It's hard to go 13-3, 4. I know the numbers change. So we don't know exactly how it's all going to play out, but I'm pretty sure you can take a team that just left the Super Bowl last year with a shitty offensive line, being sacked 9 and 10 times a game, and got better to win a lot more games than 8.
Yeah, that's the thing. They followed. Yeah. I think the Bengals followed the same path as what the Kansas City Chiefs did when they wanted to, after Patrick Mahomes got dummied by the Bucs and just stacked. What?
And look what happened to them for a little while. People started to fade away on the Chiefs.
Well, but what I'm saying though is the Chiefs are still a very good team. And I think that's what's going to end up happening with the Bengals. The reason why we've been at it with the Bengals is we want everybody to temper their expectations. They're not the be all end all
world beaters,
but they're also a very good team and should be feared by most on the schedule. The one other thing I want to talk about.
Let me ask you guys this. Sorry, Vincent, not to cut you off. Do you truly believe with your heart, 100%, that the Cincinnati Bengals can be the best team in the AFC next year?
In the AFC?
Yeah.
In the AFC,
the best
the AFC
team?
West.
The best team in the AFC, the Cincinnati Bengals.
No.
They can be top 3.
The best team in your division.
Wait, you said the AFC, not the AFC North?
AFC entirely. They were the best team in the AFC last year. They got to the Super Bowl. Do you think this team can be the best team in the AFC?
I do believe they can get to the Super Bowl. I don't think at the end of the regular season they will be the number 1 seed in the AFC. Yeah, I think people are once again sleeping on the Chiefs just because Tyreek Hill is gone. I'm sorry, the makeup that they have, and I know we're going to talk about them, they have pieces. The losses they got from Tyreek Hill leaving, they got back in some other people. So they can be top 3, in my opinion, for the Cincinnati Bengals. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think they could be the best team in the AFC North, and it'd be a battle for the best team in the AFC. That's how I see it as a whole. But again, you think about it, like their defense is what scares me. That secondary is what scares me. The pass rush, not so much. Like I think that they have some dogs on that D line. I think they have the all right linebackers. Not basically outside that D line, I'm a little nervous. But when you look at the big picture here, I think Cincinnati still has the core pieces and the right group to be able to make it happen and make a run for the top team in the AFC. But